The SEC tournament has begun. What does Auburn need to do, and should we even really care?
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zac Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Joining me for a few minutes today, it is the Isaac Schade, host of Locked On College Basketball. Isaac, there's a lot of chatter both within Auburn's fan base and just throughout all of college basketball. Auburn, in case you didn't know, lost the last two games of the regular season. And there's opinions all over the place, Isaac, on how much stock we should really give that as the SEC tournament starts today, as well as, of course, the NCAA tournament starting next week, I guess. So in your mind, how much stock should you put into Auburn dropping one against Texas A&M and then losing on a buzzer beater to Alabama?
Exactly. Like, just the tone of your voice right there says it all, Zach, right? Like, this is a complete nothing burger to me. Auburn just wrapped up after the Kentucky game, perhaps the most difficult conference in the history of college basketball by multiple games. I've been comparing it to an MLB race, right? Where you play 162 games, maybe the Braves wrap it up in 155, and then it's just like, all right, cool. We'll wait till it's time to actually play again. The rest of the regular season, like, sure, you want to beat A&M, you want to beat Bama, but you just don't have the same level of have to. Mm-hmm. Because I had said multiple times last week, even before the A&M game, Auburn could lose out, meaning A&M, Alabama, and their quarterfinal matchup against Ole Miss or whoever it's going to wind up being in the SEC tournament, and still be the number one overall seed. That's how much Auburn's resume is out ahead of everyone else. I've also kind of compared it to the 2007 Florida team, right? Like, that was trying to defend their national championship. And it felt like they basically sleptwalked through the entire regular season until it was time to turn up for the NCAA tournament. And then we all saw what happened. That's where this Auburn team is. I'm not concerned in the least.
Well, that's good to hear. And I agree with you. I mean, especially Tuesdays. I mean, Saturday stinks because it was against your rival, and you wanted to celebrate
the way it ended.
Yeah, and you wanted to celebrate senior day. I mean, it's such a senior heavy team, and it kind of would have been a fun moment to celebrate like how incredible that regular season was. And you couldn't really do that. But Tuesday, 100% agree. 100% agree. It's like you just wrapped it up, and Denver Jones didn't play, and Texas A&M needed it a bunch. Like, whatever. So you kind of highlighted Auburn's path in this SEC tournament. And there's two schools of thought on this. Like, does the SEC tournament really actually matter? It seems to matter more to fan bases who haven't won it, at least recently, or maybe even head coaches that haven't won it before. Auburn obviously has multiple times, including last year. There's this discussion or debate of like, would Auburn just benefit from more time off, for more rest, if they are going to get that number one overall seed, regardless of what happens? It seems like they're probably going to play Ole Miss. That seems like the most likely option. What are you expecting for the Tigers in this?
First off, I'm actually expecting them to play Arkansas. I think they're playing better than Ole Miss right now. And it's kind of weird because on one level, Arkansas would be my kind of like dark horse for the SEC tournament, but they got to go through Auburn to do it. So there's that. Yeah. Yes, Zach, I am of like-minded thought with you on this. I was talking about this on the ACC Squad show this week. Let me give a shout out to that. I know the SEC Squad is phenomenal, but on ACC Squad, I was talking about this for Duke in a very similar conversation. I think it makes sense here. What is the level of motivation, right? And it's different in the ACC because like a 75% Duke could walk through the ACC tournament. Not so for Auburn, right? Auburn's got a much more difficult path here. But the thing is, like, it was like I was struggling to get the guys to understand on the ACC Squad show that the level of motivation when you got bigger fish to fry, when you got bigger goals ahead of you in the coming 3 weeks, it relativizes how much this week matters to you. Would you like an SEC tournament championship? 100%.
Sure.
But Auburn has already won the regular season, again, by multiple games. That, to me, is wildly more important than getting hot for 3 days leading up to the NCAA tournament. there is something to be said for a lot of rest. I could just go boom, 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 and name off a number of dominant teams that have won their conference tournament and then turned around and have lost their sea legs come Thursday or Friday when it's time to start playing again. Particularly, Zach, in the SEC, which is one of 5 conferences.
Oh, okay. All right. I thought you were going to say, especially like the team that won the SEC tournament last year.
No. But I was going to say, particularly in the SEC, which goes until Sunday instead of Saturday, like some of the other power conferences do, you got less time to rest up and get ready and travel. There's just so much to the beginning of the NCAA tournament that lose it. Like, I want to win at least one game, right? Like, you want to win Friday in the quarterfinals, but if you lose Friday in the semifinals to Tennessee or maybe A&M, it's honestly not the worst thing in the world.
Yeah. I mean, so the reason I've said it might be a slightly larger deal is because I kind of get the vibe, Isaac, and maybe this is just me being a pessimist, but it does seem like there is traction for Duke to get the number 1 overall seed. Do you think there's any chance of that, or do you think Auburn's resume is so good that it doesn't matter?
The latter is true for me, but you never know what the committee is going to do.
Right.
But when you start to look at the team sheets, which is has all the various metrics that the selection committee legitimately uses right now, yes, Duke is number 1. But in every there are 3 different resume metrics they're looking at: KPI, strength of record, and wins above bubble. 1-1-1 for Auburn in that. Duke is 7-3-7, an average of 5.7. In the quality, which is the like computer predictive side of the metrics, which is BPI, Ken Palm, and Bart Torvik, Duke is number 1 in all 3 of those, but Auburn is 3-2-3, right? With Houston being the flip-flop of Auburn.
Okay.
So it's so close right there. But then when you look at the quad numbers, Auburn more than doubles, Zach, Duke's number of quad 1 wins, 15-7. Is right with them in quad 2. Duke is 7-0, Auburn 6-0, just because Duke's had more games. And so, like, it's right there. I wouldn't, if I was on the committee, I would not move Duke above Auburn just because of league and some of these other metrics. But here's the other thing. Okay. Should Duke ascend to number 1 overall? So what?
Yeah.
You know, like, it's just a prestige thing is all that matters for. Auburn would still have a phenomenal path. Auburn would still get all the geographical stuff. At the end of the day, even if Duke is the number 1 overall, go beat the crap out of them. Who cares?
Yeah, no, I love that mindset. I absolutely love it. And that probably should be mentioned a little bit more. So what else do we need to see from the Tigers if they want to achieve all the goals that are in front of them? We tackle that next right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at Factor. Factor meals. If you're looking to optimize your nutrition this year, Factor makes eating well easy with chef-prepared, dietitian-approved meals that are fresh, never frozen, and they're ready to eat in just 2 minutes. They come in a nice box that's nice and refrigerated, and you just put them in your fridge, and you zap them for 2 minutes, and they're ready to go. They've got 40 options across 8 dietary preferences every week. You can select Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, Keto. Factor even offers some wholesome smoothies and breakfast and grab-and-go snacks to keep you fueled all day long. Eat smart with Factor. Get started at factormeals.com/LockedOnCollege, 50 off, and use code LockedOnCollege, 50 off for 50% off your first box and free shipping. Once again, that code is LockedOnCollege, 50OFF for 50% off your first box and, of course, free shipping. Today's show is also brought to you by our friends at TurboTax. Taxes was waiting and wondering and worrying if you're going to get any money back, and then waiting and wondering and worrying some more. And now Taxes is matching with a TurboTax expert who could do your taxes as soon as today. And this expert gives you your taxes their undivided attention, so you don't have to worry about taxes. All you can do is just get the most money back guaranteed. No waiting, no wondering, no worries. Now this is Taxes. Get an expert now at TurboTax.com. Only available with TurboTax full live service. Real-time updates only in the iOS mobile app. See guarantee details at TurboTax.com/guarantee. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first or second listed every single day, as this is a bonus edition of the show. We're joined by Isaac Schade, host of Locked On College Basketball, daily, every single day throughout the year, but especially throughout March. So be sure to give Locked On College Basketball your ears and eyes today. However you find Locked On Auburn, you can find Locked On College Basketball. So we talked about this rest or whatever, like Denver Jones, not 100% at the end of the season. Johni Broome, not 100%. Seems like he grabs his shoulder once or twice every single game now at this point. Chad Baker-Mazara kept grabbing his back against Alabama. Everybody's banged up at this point, but it does seem like Auburn needs this time off a little bit more than some other teams.
Yeah, I agree with you, Zach. I'd been eyebrows up about Johni, right? He had those back-to-back single-digit point efforts at Kentucky, at A&M.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was really pleased to see what he did against Bama. I just needed Johni, you good? Right. And I thought he reminded us why he is who he is on Saturday. So that was important to me, which, man, that National Player of the Year race is closer than ever, Zach. It's so fun.
If you had a vote, who would you vote for?
Johni. Over and over and all day again on Sunday.
Because of competition or what?
Yes, because it is so if you utilize the advanced per 40-minute numbers on Sport Reference, the neck and neckness of both of their numbers is crazy how close it is. So in a situation like that, I'm like, what is the one thing that can tip the scales one way or the other? And then so for me, it's just SEC versus ACC. Cooper is doing it against inferior competition. Yes, the fact that he's a 17-year-old or now 18-year-old kid who should be in high school, whatever, that that narrative we've heard all season is phenomenal. But that doesn't mean that he should get it just because of young man hype, right?
Everything I read about, The Athletic did this, they had their whole staff vote or whatever. And a lot of the folks that argued for Cooper, they mentioned, one of the first things they mentioned is how young he's younger. And it's that doesn't matter. Are we talking about that in the NBA or MLB when we're voting for MVP? Does a rookie get more of a chance than LeBron? When you're voting for MVP, that's just the weirdest thing. And then they talk about how he's going to be the number one overall pick, and Johni might be a second rounder. And it's that once again, if we're just going to give it to the first overall pick, let's just wait till the night of the NBA draft to give it to the first pick. If that's what we're going to do,
hand him a hat that says Jazz or whatever, and then hand him the National Player of the Year trophy. Come on, man. Look at the freaking numbers and make a decision based on who has been the best player in college basketball, and use whatever metrics you need to, but get that extraneous stuff out of here because it doesn't matter.
All right, let's discuss the SEC tournament just real quick.
Yeah.
So Auburn probably either playing Ole Miss or Arkansas.
South Carolina has a chance to do the wildest thing, though.
Yeah, and it seems like they barely lose every game. I don't know. I kind of wouldn't be shocked by it. But yeah, regardless of who Auburn plays, do you think Auburn did a good spot to win and then take on the winner of Tennessee A&M, which I love that they play each other the day before, because that's going to be a battle, regardless of who wins.
Yes, very much, Zach. I feel as good as you can feel about an SEC draw this year, right? I do like Auburn's, which is part of being the number one seed. As you said, I love that we're going to have probably A&M Tennessee rock fight the night before. There's a chance that Texas and Texas A&M play on Thursday, which would be hilarious.
Sure.
But yes, Tennessee, Texas A&M, and then on the other side, Florida and Bama are probably going to have to play in the semifinal. I almost view, though, the SEC tournament as those top four. It's an offensive line that no one can break through, right? It's just, while the SEC has so much depth and heavyweight, those four, the Tigers, along with Florida and Bama and Tennessee, really, to me, have separated themselves from an already loaded field. And so it's just good luck getting sacks in, boys, because this front four is beefy.
No kidding. If it goes chalk, the final four in the SEC tournament is Auburn, Tennessee, and Florida, Bama. And if you told me that was the final four in the whole thing, it's that makes sense.
It legitimately, Zach, there's a world, by the nature of the conference play, where it could be harder to win the SEC championship than the NCAA tournament championship this year. I'm saying that legitimately, no tongue in cheek.
Yeah. So Isaac, I said this on a show earlier this week, where, among all this panic, of Auburn dropping the last two games, it's the tape is out. if you have this physical team that goes up and, can get to the basket and all that and make you uncomfortable, like that's how you beat Auburn. And I'm like, well, that's how you beat anybody. I've made the joke, like I'm a Patriots fan, this, and it's like throughout my entire time of watching Tom Brady, they're like, oh, you just got to get a guy who can, you just got to rush Tom Brady. It's like, yeah, you got to rush any quarterback. Like no quarterback's good if a defensive end's, hitting them every single play. It's the same thing with basketball. If you're a physical team that makes the other team uncomfortable, like, it's going to help you 100%. But my thing is in the SEC, you've got maybe 4 teams that can do that to you. And then when you expand it out, so 4 out of 16, and then when you expand it out to the NCAA tournament, there might be 8 teams that can do that to you, and there's 68 teams in that field.
Hey, Zach, you want to know who one of those teams is?
Who?
The Houston Cougars. Do you remember what happened on Saturday, November 9th?
Oh, yeah. Tahad Pettiford's coming out party for sure.
So it's like, I'm like, okay, make those arguments and then go look at what happened literally this season,
right?
Where Auburn has stood up to that competition. Iowa State, crazy physical team, had Auburn down by double-digit points. I was watching, I vividly remember I was sitting in the Houston airport watching that game on my phone, like, holy cow, Iowa State, what are you doing to Auburn? Holy smokes, the Tigers are coming. Like, nah, the proof is in the pudding, dude. Be physical all you want.
They did that to somebody else the next day. Do you remember?
That one is just gone from my memory banks. Yes, they just obliterated my North Carolina Tar Heels and then went on to beat Memphis to win the Maui Invitational. Right. Yes, Maui bump. Give it to the Tigers.
Yeah, just wanted to make sure you remembered that. That's all.
Oh, I'm very keenly aware. It's been painful.
Who wins the SEC tournament?
Florida.
Florida beats who?
Auburn.
Okay. There you go.
I think it matters more to Florida because they're playing for a number 1 seed still. And I think they have more motivation than Auburn. And I think that will end up mattering on Sunday afternoon.
Give me your 4 1 seeds. Auburn, Duke, Houston,
Florida.
I agree with that. I agree with that.
And I think that's regardless of, for Houston and Auburn, it's regardless of what happens this week. I think there's a little more fluctuation with Duke because of the ACC and a little more fluctuation with Florida because of who might win the SEC. I do think Duke will still be a number 1 seed, even if, let's say, they lose in the semifinal or final, but I think they might fall off the number 2 overall at that point.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Isaac, how can people check out everything you've got going on?
Man, I am most active on Twitter at Isaac Schade. 2 A's and 1 S in Isaac, and there is a C in Shade. I don't know. It's a weird thing.
Perfect. Be sure to check out Locked On College Basketball. It's fantastic. Please like the video. Please subscribe, and we'll see you next time. This has been Locked On Auburn.